Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining with us this evening, and welcome to day 4 of Women's Week, where we'll be touching on the topic of overcoming adversity. So, the agenda of today is we're going to do some introductions. We'll take a group photo and introduce our speakers, go on with our moderated panel, and allow our audience to ask some questions to our panelists. And then we'll do some reflections. These are our event directors. We have the co-VP of operations of MOBS, myself alongside her, and then our president, Aditi. And so what was the idea behind this week? We figured it's been really hard to connect with other people and other students throughout the pandemic. So we wanted to give this platform as an opportunity to talk with each other, share ideas and our stories, and connect with each other on LinkedIn too. As you saw, Nancy dropped a link in the chat, so feel free to add your Zoom and other information that you'd like to share. And I added this quote by Frida Kahlo. I think that little by little, I'll be able to solve my problems and survive. And I feel like sometimes in life you are faced with challenges, and it does take little by little steps to be able to continue and move on and overcome those challenges. So a special thank you to Michelle. If it weren't for her, we wouldn't have connected with our lovely panelists today. Aditi will tell you a little bit more about her work.
I just want to say a special thank you to Michelle. She's been amazing throughout my journey, especially at SF State. And you can always contact her for anything you require. She's probably the most important resource, I would say, in the College of Business. So you make sure you reach out to her at least once during your journey. And thank you so much, Michelle, for all your support, for everything, and for helping us set up this panel as well today.
Thank you so much, Aditi, and to Ayla and to all of our panelists tonight. I'm so excited for your discussion tonight, and I'm just thrilled that you guys have worked so hard to put together such an amazing panel. Definitely reach out to me if you're interested in exploring how to improve your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and your pitch. A lot of people forget that they need to learn how to market themselves, and also how to just get ready for the job search process and really developing a good understanding of how to tell your story in all of your platforms, whether it's LinkedIn, your resume, your cover letter. All of those are really important. So again, congratulations, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me say a few words. Let's get on with it. Yay.
Thank you, Michelle. So as this is our day 4, tomorrow is our last event of the week. We'll be having a mental health and meditation mixer hosted, a workshop hosted by Lara Gregorio, and she's the CEO and co-founder of Humanist. It's a platform towards mental health. And then a professor at SF State, Dr. Jennifer Dabenmeyer, she'll be doing a guided meditation. So please RSVP, probably at the link that brought you here. And attendees also get free access to Sleepio and Daylight by Big Health. And Sleepio is it's a 6-week program to help you better your sleep patterns, and Daylight helps with anxiety. So some tips for a successful attendee: learn as much as you can, join us for our event tomorrow, and also we'll be posting recordings about the other events so you can learn from those topics if you weren't able to. Network. Please add your information to the link Nancy sent in the chat. Reach out to each other and other attendees, and have a chat with the speakers after event and build new connections and relationships who could possibly mentor you or give you good advice if you have questions. Post on social media and spread the word. Own your strength and courage. Don't let anything stop you from creating everything you can from this event. So right now we're going to take a group photo. If you do not want to be in it, feel free to turn off your cameras, but I'm going to stop sharing this so we can see all your lovely faces. DT, do you mind, or Nancy?
Yes, sure. All right. I'm going to take one. So I'm going to do a countdown real quick. Whoever's comfortable, you can turn on your videos and give us a smile. All right. 3, 2, 1. Thank you, everybody.
You guys. And we're back. So these are our speakers of the evening. We have Erin Corcoran. She's a new business analyst, so congratulations on your position at Adventures. And Maria Lucero, she's the senior recruiting manager at Co-op Careers. And Taylor Lay, she's an advisor onboarding coordinator at First Republic Private Wealth Management. And I'll stop sharing now and start with our moderated panel. So I'd like to start us off with our speakers introducing themselves, their backgrounds, and how they got into their field of work today. So Maria, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you, Isla. So hi, everyone. My name is Maria Teresa Lucero. I am the Senior Recruiting Manager for COOP Careers, which is a workforce development nonprofit. And let me tell you, I did not think I would be doing the work that I'm doing here today. Originally, I immigrated from the Philippines to California, to the Bay Area at age 7. English is my third language. And from a very young age, I knew I wanted to help people. And if you have any Filipino friends, the best way to help people and the number one career to do that is to become a nurse. And so I actually graduated from Cal State East Bay, and I did all of the prerequisites to get into a nursing program. I had like a 3.83 GPA. Worked really hard to get into a nursing program, but I couldn't get in. And so I was like, okay, well, I can't wait forever and basically waste money for the next coming months, next coming years if I'm not going to get into a nursing program. So I'm going to go ahead and graduate with a BS in health science, administration, and management. That's the closest to all the classes that I took. So I went ahead and graduated with that degree. And during my last couple of months of undergrad, I actually started an Instagram account about financial literacy, how to save money, how to find deals, how to use coupons to, save money. This was back in 2014, 2015. And I started that Instagram account, and in a matter of 8 to 9 months, my Instagram account grew to about 3,000 followers. And I know right now it does not seem like a lot because, the age of influencers is a thing. But back then, that was a lot. And that really made me question, like, okay, I'm trying so hard to become a nurse. It's not working out. So why don't I go ahead and shine light on this thing that I just started doing because I was interested in it. So I started to, think about other avenues that I could do. It was really hard, to be completely honest with you, because I was super tied to the fact that I spent 3 years, I lived in Starbucks, y'all, because I was trying so hard to get into a nursing program. And I was like, am I really going to give that away? Did I really waste all that time? So it was really hard, don't get me wrong, it was really hard for me to let go of that. And I can talk more about that later. And so I started to find ways that I could make social media as my career. So I actually found out about Co-op, the organization that I work for at today, through Cal State East Bay's website. And I was like, okay, it's free. I have nothing to lose. I'm still trying to get into a nursing program while I'm doing this program. And I was working full time. So in that whole kind of 2 to 3 year process, I did Co-op. I successfully was able to land a job in social media marketing. So I work in paid search. And for those that don't know what paid search is, it's when you go to Google or you go to Bing or you go to DuckDuckGo and search for trendy shoes and all those ads at the top, all those ads in the bottom. I was serving you those ads. You're welcome. And so I was able to, work in search marketing for 2 years until during that time, I got interested in something else, which is workforce development, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And also in that like 2 to 3 year time frame, Co-op was growing and they were hiring for their first ever recruiting manager in California. And I was like, I've worked with kids for 5 years. I've always wanted to make a difference. I think this is the right pivot. So I went ahead and pivoted my career from, social media marketing to workforce development nonprofit. And here I am. It's my almost second year recruiting for Co-op. Truly has not been a linear path. And so for those that are like, I don't know what I'm doing after college, it's okay, because it's not going to be linear, and that's going to be fine. Trust your journey.
Thank you, Maria. I'm totally in that boat right now as I'm approaching graduation, but you're giving me hope that you just got to trust your gut and find as much opportunities and be resourceful. So thank you. Erin, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah. Similar to Maria, I have a non-linear path. I came of age in a time when it didn't matter what you got your bachelor's in, you just had to get it. And we know that that is not necessarily great advice that's aged very well. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I liked reading books. I was very bookish, introverted in high school. So I just thought, oh yeah, I could just go to college and read books, right? So I got a BA in English literature and psychology, and I did technical writing, sort of like a precursor to tech. Like that was pre-smartphone. So I thought like that could be a good backup. But what I really wanted to do was just travel, just eat my way through Europe. I wasn't a very ambitious person. I just wanted to experience life. I had grown up in Massachusetts and just really wanted to get out. So I went overseas for a few years, and I worked in a variety of nonprofit roles that were pretty, I look back on it now and I was like, I was doing what when I was 24? Like, oh. Taught English in South Korea. And I also worked in the Middle East, which was a very strange experience working with the US military. Learned a lot, and decided to move to the West Coast. Still had no idea what I wanted to do. I liked nonprofit. I liked having a mission. But that I was pretty agnostic to what that, the do-goodery could be. So I thought that was a good way to leave myself open to things, but it's actually really hard to get help when your ask is so vague. So I went to work at a nonprofit foundation, and when I started, I thought that like, well, they're a nonprofit, they work in this industry, like this, total values alignment. And that really wasn't true. It turns out there was a lot more of the like philanthropy, sort of like the socialite piece that I was not into at all. Like awards galas and just really, very different from anything else I had been doing. And so when I realized that I just wasn't happy with what I was doing, I was looking at roles I thought might be interesting, like business analysis or other program manager roles, but like on the tech side, your MBA was kind of the passport to all of that. So that really put me on like, I would say a 5-year journey, start to finish, of like figuring out the program, what I wanted to do, putting together all those resources, the interviewing skills, the networking skills, everything we're talking about right now is so long-term. That it cannot be done all at once. It is not possible. But like the Frida Kahlo quote was just saying, like, you kind of chip away at it, just baby steps. Like that's really true. No person can do it all at once. Like you just couldn't do it. So got my MBA at SF State. I had a really good time there. I live in San Francisco myself, so it was just really great to tap into this network. I think San Francisco State is an underdog. I think it is routinely underestimated. I think there's such a great, powerful network full of really interesting people who, maybe couldn't go to Duke or to whatever, but, really could live a whole life, be a whole person, and still get excellent education. and still contribute. So I just really believe in the public education model. And I'm really proud that I've gone my entire career to excellent public schools. And so now I am a business analyst. I have made a complete change from nonprofit program management all the way to business analysis. And I'm much happier with it. It became much less about personalities and so much more about your output and like what you're working on, business problems. They care about your acumen, insights that you can offer. It's less about the sort of politicking, which I just did not enjoy at all. So that's me.
Yeah, sounds like a journey. And after 5 years, it's really cool to hear that from that direction you were going for, you landed in a place that you hoped. Thank you. Taylor, can we hear from you, please? Oh, I think you're muted.
Using my phone too. Hi everyone, I'm Taylor. I went to SF State for about 5 years. I had 2 to 3 different majors and realized that marketing was actually the one that would get me the degree at the end. So throughout college, I actually financially struggled and needed to pay off my rent and everything. So I had to have 2 to 3 jobs at the same time consistently. Yeah, I know the feeling. It's rough. And, sometimes I kind of had to take jobs that I didn't really like. And so through that, I kind of dealt with a couple of strange situations like gender pay wage gaps, and had some sexual harassment encounters, and such. But through that, I was able to, move forward with other jobs. I decided I had enough with that job, moved on to better jobs, and was able to find my way. I went to a recruiter to look for a marketing job, and she said, well, you seem to like numbers, you seem to like be very helpful with other people. I think that you'd be good in finance and be an admin for them for a little bit. So I ended up getting the job. It was for a contract. And then I guess they liked me so much, they offered me a full-time position. So it was kind of my saving grace right before the pandemic hit. So now I'm in finance and I'm training for a promotion within the next year or so. So that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. And I know gender pay gap has been in a fight for a lot of women, and we still have work to do, but I'm hopeful that it will get better as a lot of women are showing their power and finding their voices. And it's amazing that you were able to survive through all those adversities. That brings me to my question on what does adversity mean to you, and have you experienced it throughout your life journey or in your professional career? Perhaps it has come in both. Maybe we've heard a little bit about it already, but if you'd like to dive deeper, we welcome you to be candid, as this is a safe space for you. Erin, would you like to go?
Sure, yeah. So I have a lot of, I don't know if I should say like trigger warning, but just I have kind of a ridiculous laundry list of things that befell me. But so for personal adversity and professional adversity, I'll just like quickly touch on them. But my family of origin was very unstable, family of alcoholics, pretty abusive, neglectful. My father died when I was 8. I had to go live with my grandmother and my grandpa. He died when I was 12. I ended up moving in with friends. It becomes very complicated. I ended up living with friends in high school. I thankfully went to college, but there was just really no structure, so I didn't have, so my parents had gone to college. My father had graduated, but I didn't have them around to actually show me around. And I was estranged from my brother, who was also going to college. So there were people in the network, but I wasn't actually able to really have anyone steering me about like how to, what are the classes you should take, or how do you get your internship, or even what an internship was. I remember my first day of senior year of high school, AP English. the teacher asks everybody where they want to go to college, and everyone had a list. And it's like, I felt so paranoid. It's like, was there a secret class that they had without me? Because I just was like, what, college? I guess I'll go. You know, so I'm very lucky that I had a few adults like steering me to that, because I didn't know what else to do. And I knew if I waited, I would never want to go back to school. And actually going for my graduate degree was pretty hard to readjust as a student. But yeah, so there was just a lot of like stability issues. You know, it turns out when you don't have a stable family to give you that structure, it's very difficult as like an underage, you know, person to somehow give yourself that. Yeah, so there's a lot of death, a lot of loss, abandonment. My mother died when I was, or my grandmother died when I was a freshman in college. That was very, that was a morale killer. And then my mother died. So it was just, I kind of look back and I think, wow, God bless me. Like, I don't know how I did it, but I kept going. And I think that's a real strength to young people. It's like, I just got to believe it's going to get better. There's a big world. I want to go out and travel. There were all these really lousy experiences that happened to me. Not my fault, nothing I did wrong, but just, you know, the kind of carelessness around me. And I'm the one left picking up the pieces. So I was just like, I've got to get out of Massachusetts. I've got to get away from this family. I'm going to go travel the world. And I don't really know beyond that. And it didn't, you know, I don't know if I'd advocate for it, but like definitely try to push yourself, like, especially when you're young, you know, 22, 23, or, you know, take a few years, you know, there's a lot of flexibility. And for me, I wanted, you know, to connect with employers who saw that as a strength rather than the kind of traditional model of, you know, like you go to school, you work for 2 years, and you go to business school, or you go get your, you know, like the very prescriptive, like work. It's like there's no personal development that was really allowed before. So in that way, I was actually building a really big network and working on like different strengths of mine by traveling in a way that I could never have guessed. But once a part of this transition with my MBA, I realized that I had all these amazing talking points and all this great experience that I was discounting because the outer critic said I didn't fit the model of, you know, of like what's acceptable, or, you know, and the Bay Area too is a really, it's a great place in that it's a job hub, unlike most any other places in the world. But it's also like terrifyingly competitive. So it was just really difficult to feel like, where do you fit in that? So yeah, so I guess I kind of straddled the adversity for professional things. Yeah, and unfortunately, I've also experienced the sexual harassment. Had a boss when I lived in Afghanistan who like threw a computer at my face. I mean, I ducked it, but like, you know, I was like 25, like what? Like, anyway, so there are a lot of crappy men out there, I think. What else? Another boss hired me, and I thought was like, oh, wow, you see something in me, like potential. Oh, this is so great. You know, I have a mentor, an advocate. And just to find out through like some of the, I don't know, staff people that were, it got real, again, very political nonprofits, but, you know, just finding out like, oh, he hired you because he wanted to sleep with you. And it just, you know, really popped my balloon where I was just like, like that. I felt really betrayed, hurt, and stupid, like for years after that. So it took me a very long time to feel like I had any worth beyond what some person who barely knew me thought about me. So I feel, you know, 10 years later, I just feel a lot stronger. And I love how the conversation has changed. I love that we have the Me Too movement. I just love all of this. We're like the basic level of education about like intersectionality, feminism, Indigenous people's rights, representation. I love it. I'm so happy. I could never have guessed, you know, being bullied at school, because I was not a typically like presenting girl. Like I was just a tomboy. I was made fun of, you know, I didn't like the boy bands, whatever, you know. So just that culture of othering people, like it feels like we're loosening up on that. I mean, certainly people with culture wars who want to keep us down, I guess. But yeah, so sorry, that's covered a lot of ground, but yeah, that's.
Don't apologize at all, and thank you for sharing. I really admire your resilience, and I'm happy you're here today. And I guess we could get more into like understanding red flags in the next question. But Maria, would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you, Erin, for sharing all of that. I even felt that while you were talking through your story. So, I mean, just like Erin, you know, well, first off, before I go on and talk about my story, I think it's just amazing, Erin, that like through all of that, you're still here. And I think what I found is that the most remarkable humans, you know, the ones that put on a strong face, they've been through so much. And I think that's why even right now at a time like this, it's so much more, it's so important that, you know, we just have so much compassion, show compassion to one another, especially because we're not in person, right? It's like we're living in this virtual reality, and it's so easy to be like, you know, to start virtual wars. Anyway, so for me, just like Erin, I think my family life was very complicated, and I also bucket it into two. So I've faced both, you know, personal adversity and professional adversity, which I kind of talked about earlier. So personally, my mom actually left me at 1 year old by choice. So she left me at 1 to work in the US, and I was raised by my grandparents. And, you know, my whole life until probably at age 5, I thought my grandparents were my parents. And it really kind of messes you up when, you know, they're like, hey, you actually have another parent. That dynamic is kind of shifted. And I'm also all about therapy. I have a therapist, which I love. So I'm all about mental health, because just like what Erin mentioned, you know, I think we're here to kind of pick up the pieces and kind of, you know, heal ourselves for a better tomorrow. So yeah, in the Philippines, I was raised by my grandparents. I love them. They are so wonderful. I've never met my dad, and I'm gonna share something personal, which I'm like kind of in between sharing or not, but I recently found out that he passed away a month ago. And that also kind of has been helping me find out and discover other parts of me. So this whole evolution of the human experience is forever ongoing. But I never felt like I didn't have a father because I had my grandpa. And then finally, when we immigrated to the US to meet my mom, and live here and immigrate here, it was a whole huge culture shock. I remember that when I was in the Philippines, especially as like as an immigrant and as the first person to grow up in America, there was a lot of burden and there was a lot of hope for me to kind of carry on the family line and to kind of just like, you know, honor our family, right? And I think at such a young age, the fact that I even knew that and I understood that, now looking back, I was like, wow, it's a lot. That's a lot being put on you as a child. So I had to really grow up quickly, in my opinion. It's really funny because I have a picture and I'm gonna share it. I have pictures of me. I've always been business minded. Oh no, you can't see me because of the thing, but here I am as like a 5-year-old. I had like a business to sell snacks, and I was like, I also like wore business clothing. So I was always business minded, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, give our family honor, and I'm gonna do all these great things in the US, make you proud, make my parents proud. And honestly, that kind of has helped me surpass any challenges that has come along the way. And boy, there was a lot. Not only was it difficult, you know, acclimating myself to the American culture, from like getting bullied for not knowing how to speak English. I think I was in ESL, which is English as second language. I was in ESL until probably 3rd or 4th grade. And I was always so ashamed of me being Filipino, me being an other, because like I just wanted to be like everyone else. Like I remember I took this Filipino dish called adobo for lunch, and then I would get made fun of and be like, hey, what are you eating? Like, why does it smell so bad? And then I still like, that's ingrained in my head. And I wish I could like just hug my little Maria and just be like, it's okay. Like, you're eating really good food. Because at that time, I just wish I had a Lunchable. I wish I could just blend in, and I wish I had a sandwich or something. And it's crazy now that it's almost opposite, right? Like the rise of street food is a thing. And like, I'm like, why couldn't I be a child at this point? It would have been so much easier, right? Anyway, so apart from that, growing up, we were always moving around. I think one of the biggest challenges was in high school when I moved to high schools 3 times. So y'all already know how high school is difficult. I moved high schools not once, not twice. I moved 3 times. Or technically, I moved twice and I attended 3 high schools. And that was because of the housing crisis, or like the recession. And so the second high school that I attended, it wasn't that bad. It was Milpitas High School for those that are Bay Area natives. I first went to James Logan High School in Union City, loved my life. I was always involved in school because I knew that was a way for me to like network and also just like gain skills. I played volleyball, played basketball. I always kept myself busy. So me moving to Milpitas High School wasn't that bad because I had relatives. So when I moved to Milpitas, I knew I was only going to be there for 3 months. 3 months. So I decided to try out for the volleyball team. I played volleyball the whole time, made friends that I still keep in contact today. But my move to my 3rd high school was completely different. I ended up moving to Stockton to one of the newest schools called Bear Creek High School. And as I'm like talking about this, it's like, it brings me back. So I just remember I moved in November. Not only did the school system start a month before, so I was in a lot of honors classes. I also like had, advanced classes. So what that means is that if they started a month before, it was hard for me to catch up. And I also moved in November, and it was like depressing. Like how are you? How are you supposed to meet people in November? So like that point in time in my life, I'm going to be really personal and say like, I definitely faced a lot of depression. I've hit the lowest of the low that I think I've ever faced, because not only was my personal, like my friendships, my support system that was taken away from me, but also my academics. So what was left? Like there was nothing. And I can talk more. I think we're going to talk more later about like how to overcome that. And I'll give you a sneak peek, but like I cried for a good maybe 6 months, to be completely honest with you. I like rejected it. I was like, why is this happening? Like I was like very much so depressed, which is why now I'm an advocate for mental health, because even though someone might look okay or put together, like you really don't know what has happened in their life. And so thankfully, after 6 months of like crying and just like going through all the emotions and just rejecting what was happening to me, I ended up finding a really good group of friends who who really steered me away and like provided that community for me. And for those that have heard of The Alchemist, I'm not sure if you have heard of that book, The Alchemist. That was one of my life-changing books that I read throughout the different moves in during the times that I moved in high school. One of the quotes, something along the lines of like, whatever you want, the universe conspires you to have it. And so I just remember in the beginning of my high school years, before I knew I was going to move, I was like, I really want to play volleyball. I really want to be in leadership. I want to do all these things, but I can't do it in Logan. So what was interesting is that moving actually made it possible. I was able to play volleyball in Milpitas High School. In my 3rd high school, after I was able to heal from finding that community, I actually had like a 360 moment, like literally 360 moment, where I was like, okay, I can't keep crying forever. I have to accept what's happening. And it's not what's happening. It's your perspective. And that in itself, that mindset that, anything can happen to you. but how you are perceiving it and how you're going to take it on is what matters the most. And when I shifted that perspective, I was like, okay, let's take it little by little, day by day. Here's the things that I want to do. So I started to, join clubs again. I started to do speech and debate. I was in speech and debate in James Logan. I tried out for the volleyball team, didn't get in. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I started to get more involved. So I've been in leadership since, all my years in middle school. And actually, so I moved sophomore year, middle of sophomore year, and in senior year, I became ASB president. I was able to present during a graduation, and I had like a 10-minute time frame. And I just remember in my presentation, kind of sort of like what we're doing right now, like I was like, do not give up. Like, although your journey might be tumultuous, you can do it. And I honestly think my life is just like a journey. Again, from the very beginning, I was like, I think I'm gonna make a difference in this world. Like, I know, I feel it. And I feel like my life has given me the things that I need to kind of, be that person to help others. And I already talked about my career stuff earlier, which, was as troublesome as the high school events. But, honestly, I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't change a thing because it has made me who I am today. And it's definitely made me stronger.
Wow, thank you, Maria. That is a beautiful story. And I love how you just empowered yourself after exploring more with that book and finding your community. A community I see definitely helps people. We're just naturally social beings. So I'm glad you had those people at that time. Taylor, would you like to go next on adversity and overcoming those?
Yeah, of course. I just want to say first, wow, they're really hard to follow because they have such amazing stories. I'm like honestly really inspired that you guys have been through so much and, look at you now, which is insane. For me personally, it was, my mom basically cut me off in college. So I had to make ends meet because I wanted to live my life in San Francisco, but also finish my degree as fast as possible. So again, I did end up taking jobs that, I didn't really want to take, but I had to make the money. So I would say like with the gender wage gap, I was working a job, my very first job as a server, and I worked there for 3 years. I never asked for raises because we were kind of just doing the minimum and such. But after my third year, I found out through a friend that this other guy that just started 6 months before is making $1 more than me. And it's like $1 at the time when you're in college is like such a big difference. So, I took the time I needed to figure out what my next moves were. Thankfully, I was working other jobs where I could pay off other stuff and I had some savings. So I just decided like, I can't take that disrespect and I'm going to leave. Sometimes you have to make that difficult decision. I was in a bind, but it didn't feel right for me to show up and this guy was making extra, like more than me every day. It just didn't feel fair, It felt like my worth was way less. In terms of like the sexual assault and harassment, I had to work as a Bud Light girl. I was going to bars, which obviously isn't the safest of environments. You would have to go and take pictures with people and greet them. And for the most part, everyone was really nice. And it was fun for me because I got to speak to a lot of different people, get to hear their stories, which I really enjoy doing. But when I was taking pictures, I don't know if this is a trigger warning or not, but I felt uncomfortable with this person, and taking pictures as part of my job. And this person is 2 feet behind me and he puts his arm around me, but goes inside of my shirt and grabs me under my bra. So that ended my night. And I decided like, I'm never going to go through that again. And I actually had to like call some hotlines because it was like traumatic, So yeah, some of that. And then it doesn't stop there. Every job you have something different. So another one of my jobs, there was a manager who, it's not sexually assault related, but he was just so, I wouldn't say misogynistic, but very into like his stories. So every time you spoke, he would just not let you speak. He would just go ahead and be like, oh, that's really cool, and then relate it to himself. And so he never really got to know me. And there was a situation where someone was making crazy emails and accusations against the management there. And I came up as one of the suspects of writing those emails. And I was like, there is no way, like, I'm the nicest of all people at that company. And like, I would never bash someone like that and send the email out to the whole company. It was just like insane. So after that, I felt really disrespected. Like, you don't even listen to me speak to know that I would never do that. But because of how you act with us and you never let us speak, you don't know how I am. And so just to be even a suspect in that, I was like, I can't work here anymore, which is why I ended up reaching out to my recruiter and ended up getting a new job at a company with basically all women managers. And it's been life-changing, honestly. Like, women really do run the world. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
I just commend you for being able to survive through those traumas, and that is not okay that people do that still to this day. And it's just, I hope it just ends. Like, that kind of behavior is so unacceptable, and I'm so sorry you had to deal with that. You guys.
No, thank you. I think that I'm glad that you guys are bringing like all of us on to discuss everything, because then future women employees will know what to look out for. So I think it's great.
Yeah, that's really why we wanted to open this platform up. So thank you guys all for being so vulnerable and sharing with us. I know sometimes it's not easy to look into the past based on the adversities you shared. And I guess that brings me to my next question. What were some of the things that got you through those experiences? I know for Maria, it sounded like that book and the support, but maybe there's other things that also helped you along the way if you want to dive deeper.
Yeah, thank you, Isla. I think apart from the book, and I think I already touched upon this, but like community, as you mentioned, Isla, we are humans, we are creatures that just want to create like community. And when I was alone in my third high school, I just kind of wanted to, like, I just want everyone to leave me alone. Like I retracted and I wanted to be alone, which was the worst thing to do. And I know that now. And when I was trying to find a job after college, I also couldn't find a job after college. I thought it was going to be easy. I was like, okay, I have my degree. All I need is my degree to start my career. Definitely not. And I had a real wake up call. And I remember talking to a bunch of recruiters and they were like, yeah, we need experience. Yeah, we need experience. Yeah, we need experience. And I was like, what experience? I don't understand. I just finished college. I thought that's as much experience as you need. And so, at that time, I also felt very alone. I saw a lot of people get jobs on LinkedIn. I didn't really have anyone to confide to. I mean, I had my friends, but it's very different, right? Especially if friends are getting jobs. You don't want to be that downer to be like, yeah, how's your new job? And you want to feel happy for them as well. But I think just having that community, which is, I'm going to just throw in the organization that I work for. That's what we provide, is like a community for folks that are trying to find a job. And so when I did co-op, and this kind of translates to how I was able to find a job, we had conversations like this, literally the rawness, the vulnerability of what we're talking about, like the realness. We have these conversations, and it just feels so different because you're not alone, And when I was trying to find a job, when I was trying to figure out myself in my third high school, I felt so alone, and isolation can literally kill you because you feel like you are the worst person possible. Or, you know, for me, I'm an overthinker, and when I'm left alone, especially right now too with the pandemic, even though I have a very external facing role, I push myself to go outside, to have dates, Zoom dates with my friends, because if not, I literally kind of just like naturally retract myself and like get away from people. I don't know if that makes me an introvert or like an ambivert, because I feel like I'm an extrovert. I don't know. But I always try to find community, because when I'm with the people that I love, or with a group of people that like energizes me, and like we all kind of are on the same page, or even folks that like just having a conversation and we don't have the same thought process, it's just nice to kind of just like be in community. And I think community is a huge ingredient to overcoming any type of adversity and not feeling like you're alone.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Erin, what things or people have helped you throughout your journey, or what helps you out today in just daily challenges too?
Yeah, I think I'm also an ambivert. Like, I was very shy growing up, very uncomfortable in my body. So I kind of built like a rich inner world where I love movies. I love music. I mean, like, I definitely, the stereotype of like a girl just kind of like daydreaming in her room or reading, like that is, so my room is like part sanctuary, part prison. It's both. It supports me. It also contains me. So yeah, leaning into just where you find that joy. What's comforting. So I definitely, I struggled with anorexia when I was younger, not because I was obsessed with like my weight, but like physically, like food grossed me out. I grew up in a house with a compulsive eater that it just like, I just hated food. Like, I would never like food until I was older. Just sounds weird, but like food was always a chore. And now I've learned to eat my feelings, and it's a great pleasure now. So I've learned how to cook. So that's definitely something that I've really leaned into during COVID. So yeah, so it's funny, but like the trauma and all of the just horrible things actually kind of prepared me for COVID. So I was sort of laughing with some of my friends of like, oh, the normies can't handle this. It's like, oh, it's weird. It's like my crushing isolation or depression has just sort of like externalized and like kind of went out into the world. It was like I manifested like the worst feelings like I have felt. And it was just weird. I don't know how else to describe it other than being in like, I don't know, like a pool that's like your perfect body temperature. You just don't really know where you end or begin. It's just kind of continuous. So yeah, and despite how I'd say cruel a lot of my family experiences were, I was able to find good friends that I'm still friends with. Plenty of volatility, but I knew that even though my family wasn't loving, that I had love to give, and I put it in my friendships. I didn't know that's what I was doing. But yeah, like one of my oldest friends, I've been friends with her since I was 5 years old. So it's like 30 years. And it was her birthday yesterday, and it was just nice to chat and catch up. So from an early age, despite the cruelty or the othering, or, just like the heteronormative Protestant work ethic of late stage capitalism is grinding us down. COVID has been horrible, but it's also really, I think, shown us a spotlight on all these systems that are not working, and that we can actually acknowledge, despite any administration, like despite the political class, whoever they are, whoever those actors are, but we can, as a people, I feel like there's a really strong national dialogue saying this isn't working. That just feels so different than anything that I can remember. It's kind of a wild tangent, but yeah, so I really focused on friends and just things that I liked. So I went to concerts, and for all the bad experiences I felt, and for all of the times I never felt like I had any agency growing up. I mean, as a woman, we talk about women's work's never done, the emotional labor, all of that. The whole world gets their power by taking yours. If I had a nickel for every time I just wanted to take up my little space on, a given subway or a bus or something. And there's just some jackass with his legs spread and doesn't notice anything, it's just like that anger of like, I want so little out of this life. I'm demanding so little. It's just outrageous. And I just love that we're pushing back. I love this conversation. And not to say that this is like a man hating anything, but like, I like that we're pushing back and that, we're just challenging men to be better allies. And plenty of my best friends are wonderful, supportive men. And that's really the friendship. And I wouldn't say I ever had a community. I didn't do sports because I was pretty shy, very body shy, but I just always found the friends that I could connect with and have different shared experiences. And so I just knew I just wanted all the friends I can have. I am always recruiting for good people, content of their character. Interesting is great, but you just have to be nice. Like it's a low bar. And I read a book that I really recommend if you're struggling with complicated PTSD. I read it during COVID. It just rocked my world. It's called Complex PTSD, Surviving to Thriving. It was actually written by a local Bay Area family therapist. And it was just like reading a book, seeing all of like my trauma symptoms. I also have ADHD. So it could just be really like a struggle to like focus just because, as a woman, we're wired to look at all the stimuli, like we're scanning the horizon. Like we're always trying to be safe. I always think of like a pigeon or like a bird, how they're like kind of eyeing you from the side. They're like not doing anything, but they're like seeing where you are. And like, that's what women have to do. They have to be on guard. Like we all have those experiences. So it really helped me work through my issues. Depression for me is just a part of the landscape. So the acceptance is a hard mistress. Accepting where you are, learning to accept where you are, like I'm never gonna be whatever the fantasy is. Like you start to get older and you realize like the choices you're making have consequences, and it's just you're like, we need to make decisions that affect our lives for the rest of our lives at such a young age without nearly a fraction of the knowledge we really could use for the full context, which is, so I think about that time and it almost feels like the Wild West, like, no Apple smartphone, how unconnected things were. The internet just wasn't what it was. Like there's so much more information now, but I think the kids have it so easy. I don't believe that for a second. There's always new challenges. Like I am so grateful that I did not grow up with Facebook. So this is a wild tangent. So I read, I advocate therapy. I really want to stress, please reject the Protestant work ethic. It is the biggest thing that has driven me to despair, is that the constant moralizing of my time. I'm not being productive enough. Oh, I didn't make a ton of money. And the Bay Area is like just a very skewed place for that kind of status accessory stuff. So it's like very warped in a lot of ways. So for me, like living in California, it's like there's no amount of money that feels like it's enough, which is really weird. So there's all these things. So for my new job, like it's all very new for me. I've been very stressed out. I definitely have felt the PTSD from like previous work experiences of like being paranoid or just feeling like so triggered and activated. So I just try to really support myself. So really it turns out to support myself in my career, I have to be really diligent about like my diet. And I don't mean diet in the sense of like, oh, bathing suit season. I just mean like holistic intake, health, nutrition. I have IBS. I have all of the symptoms and all of the kind of issues that come from trauma and PTSD in terms of like IBS, so like I can't eat a ton of things because like my gut is so sensitive, or if I have too much caffeine. I need to exercise. Like I can't cope without that movement. Like I love walking, meditation. And it's just so important to prioritize your playtime, your rest time. So I have a lot of worry and rumination, and I work really hard to just stop those thoughts. It's a lot of like tedious metacognition work, but so like cognitive behavioral therapy is something that I had to spend a lot of time with. I've been journaling since I was 8 years old, after my father died, and I switched school systems a bunch of times. A lot of adults just like didn't know what to do with me, and they're like, have a journal. So I just got journals all the time, and so I've kept with it, and it's actually really helps me to process things, and hopefully they will be incinerated upon my death. They're not for consumption. So that's sorry, that's a lot. Those are a lot of things, but yeah.
Those were great, Erin. That was really good advice leading into what makes you comfortable, movement, nourishment, holistically, and those are just really amazing. And I'm glad you.
I just wanted to say that as a final thing, when I was asked to do this, I was really excited because I thought the value in something like this was just being really honest. I didn't want this to be like, for me, a TED talk where I postured like, what, me, break a sweat? Never. So I just really think that the value in this is like, let's get real. It's raw dog reality right now. Let's do this. Life is messy and hard, but also amazing. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I agree. And I relate to a lot of the things you say about your perspective on the world that we live in today. Taylor, what is it that helped you throughout your journey and or helps you today too?
So I definitely agree on the friends front. I had a lot of friends who were just really supportive of me, like working all these jobs, but also like they would schedule time with me whenever I was off. So I was able to hang out with them and still like relax and have a nice experience. I also just started going to therapy, which is actually awesome. Like I don't know, my dad has always been like, why would you go to therapy? And I'm
Your
like,
dad is wrong.
maybe yeah, maybe from the trauma you guys gave me, but yeah, just like speaking through or with my therapist, I just like kind of get a lot of things off my chest and I feel relief like almost immediately. So that's super awesome. One thing personally though is that like I'm kind of more of a type A person, so I plan out like everything. So having backups and like plans and everything always help me out. I know it like sucks that we actually have to do that, but honestly made my life like so much easier because I'm not worrying too much about what my next move is. So yeah, that's kind of more specific to like my life journey, is just planning.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, thank you so much, Taylor. I was looking over my next question. So in your workplaces, is there any initiatives or resources that help with dealing with adversities? If not, is there any platforms in particular that you like? I think the first half of the question, or the second half already kind of got answered by you guys, but what about your workplaces? And also if you want to touch on red flags around people in the workplace to be aware of and what you should do about that, feel free to touch on that too. So we'll go again, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually get my therapist via work, so they pay for it. So that's a huge contribution because I don't have to pay for therapy. And social work is also integrated in the program. So we look at the recent grads, at the college graduates that we serve, as holistic as we can. We don't just provide the technical skills, but see them as a person as well. So we have an amazing team of social workers, and HQ members, full-time members have access to them as well, but it's not the same folks that serve the students. So it's kind of separate. But free therapy is good because therapy can get really expensive. I would say red flags. I actually got my first job after college from Craigslist. And so I would say if they do not give you an offer letter, like if you don't sign anything, don't start. I don't think I signed anything. I think it was like, hey, you're gonna do this, this, and that. How does that sound? And I was desperate. I wanted the experience. I was also like, my title was like administrative assistant / social media coordinator. Like those two things are like opposing things. So I never really understood. I didn't get role clarity. So really push for role clarity if the job that you're getting is kind of like all over the place, especially if it's a small company. The first job that I got was a very small startup, like small as in less than 5 people. Yes, I was very desperate and wanted the experience. And I would say that, you know, the other red flags is, how do I put this into words? If the culture is like, hey, are you gonna stay up to do this? I don't know how else to say that. Like, that's a red flag. You know what I mean? You have to set your boundaries at the very beginning, because if you don't set it at the beginning, it's so much harder to set it in you know, throughout your career or throughout the time that you're there. So really be intentional. What I like to do in whatever job that I start is I like to have like a 30, 60, 90-day plan where I'm really intentional with my manager, and I'm like, hey, here's like the things that I'm really trying to get out of this career journey. Here's my working hours. I guess that really relates to just like now that we're virtual, but you know, here are my working hours if you all are going to start jobs online. Just because even though we're working from home and we have our laptops here, it doesn't mean we're going to have it open and or we're not on call. You know what I mean? So if your working hours are from 9 to 5, 9 to 6:30, if they're adding on lunch, do not work beyond that. And if there's any chance where it's like, hey, can you just do this real quick? And at that point be like, I'd love to, but is it okay if I get it to you tomorrow? Like, as long as you're not a doctor, a nurse, a firefighter, you're not killing anyone, right? Just set your boundaries. And if your boundaries are crossed, I think that's a red flag, and you should really either set your boundaries, keep pushing back, and or find another role, or get a mentor also within that company that doesn't work in the same team as you, because of course it doesn't make sense. Get mentors who works in the same company as you, and like really ask them for advice and how to figure out and navigate different situations. Yeah, I think those would be that would be it.
Yeah, that's great. Stuff about boundaries I've been seeing lately is helping me learn how to also put my foot down, even in my own like personal relationships other than work too. So thanks for touching on that. Erin, what have I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Oh, I was just going to touch on the boundaries stuff. Again, as a woman, people are very happy to constantly like carve into your boundaries, take up your time. Oh, you don't mind doing this? Oh, do this thankless task. Yes, sure, great. Yeah, you're a woman, you love this, right? And I've experienced a lot of that. And I also had a role where I didn't set boundaries early on, mostly because I just didn't know how to do that. You can have a bound, like when someone crosses a boundary, you feel it. You feel it. Like I could feel it. I'd be seething, I'd be angry. But in that moment, I felt so powerless, because the hardest part about boundaries is you have to enforce them. And that's so hard. And you have to be consistent. It's like, parenting, honestly, like, don't do that. You stop poking that. You can't do that. And that wears you down if you just feel like outnumbered or, outgunned at your job, which has happened to me. And definitely the child of alcoholics, like that's definitely a theme of like, I'll do anything to keep the harmony. Like, let's, like that, the fear for that particular thing for me goes very deep into the lizard brain. And it's like very hard to, to be like, to have your full executive functioning when you're kind of like, oh my God, is this like, I know how bad this can get. Is it going there? And even if it's not in a workplace, like your body doesn't know the difference. Now that it's strange to be working remotely. Like this is the first role that I've had like fully remote, and I've met almost nobody at my team, but it's just, I had like every horrible dread that this would be another like, role that just wasn't quite what I hoped for, but everyone was nice all the way through. It's been I work for AAA, which is not a company that I would have thought would have like the kind of cool, fun, hip vibe that say like one of the FANGs would have, or like the, Bay Area startup, but it's one of the most diverse teams that I've worked on. And I really appreciate that. And it actually, they clearly care about women. So I'm surprised that it has a really strong corporate culture that's like very honestly, they just want good workers. And capitalism at its best just wants everyone to be able to, have a share, capture those consumer dollars, like the individual is actually very valuable in that way. So in that way, I actually really appreciate that. Like, but also I'm a sentimental English major. So I want to believe in like the positivity and like the humanist approach of like, everyone has virtues, everyone has their charms, everyone has something to give and something to offer. And so we have we have like the Women's International resource group. The whole company's going to go, and we just have a talk. We did that for Black History Month. So it feels like AAA actually, they have the resources, they have the money, they actually are aligning them. They're actually creating programs. So it's like beyond my wildest dreams, like, wow, what a great fit. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at now. As far as red flags go, I mean, this, in the interview process, like you're interviewing them the way they're interviewing you. Again, I never felt like I had any like agency over that. Like, oh, you can get a job that you want. I've never done that before. It's so grim. But like just understanding like what your power is, like, it's that it's a mutual evaluation. Definitely don't let the power differential is really difficult when you're starting out in your career. It's hard. It's really hard. It's scary. You feel like you don't have a lot of leverage. You don't really feel like you don't necessarily know what your strengths are or like what card to play. That's where the networking comes in. Everyone needs a care team. Everyone needs a support team, whether, so like your personal, your family, your friends, all of that, but then also your professional network. My mentor is a person I went up to at one of the first Fridays at SF State. He asked a really smart question that was like, I don't know, like 20 dimensional chess. Like he asked such a thoughtful, deep question that was very succinct, but there was no way the answer could possibly be simple. And I was like, this guy is really smart. And I'd had some wine, so I felt bold, and I just said, talk to me. And I just started like, chirping away. And he's been one of my greatest advocates, who's like, gave me pep talks and really taught me how to interview, which was not a strength, because I'll start talking and rambling and get really nervous and like animated and like, oh my God. So he helped me kind of develop a professional polish that's like still me. But that's where the networking stuff comes into play, where if you're stuck in a job where you're being treated like garbage, that you have people that you can call, that you can tap into to be like, help me, be my life raft. And that's, it's a part of networking. It's why it's so valuable. I know people don't like it, but it's not entirely transactional. People want to help. So my mentor helped me, and I've only been at my role for a couple of months, but I've already, I'm in a data analytics boot camp. I haven't talked about that, but I referred one of the women in my cohort. She's a few years younger than me, but she's super bright. She's patient. I think she's great. And I referred her. She was like, oh, I don't know. And she's about to meet with the VP tomorrow. So like, I'm just like, hey, like, she's like, I don't know why they're talking to me. I was like, be quiet, listen to me, just listen to what I tell you. You're great. You're very patient. You're very nice. You're likable. Come on. Like, just like take all of your insecurity and just ball it up. And just for 1.5 hour, I beg you, please just like put it to the side. It will always be there tomorrow. But, it's just something I learned from one of my best friends is that if you can reject zero-sum thinking, there's a lot that opens up in your heart. I feel like a happier person. Like, compliments are free. It's cheap, it's easy. Like, I mean, it's just like not a hard thing to do. And also like, I just realized that I don't want to be, I don't want to argue with people. I want to get stuff done. I want to go do things. And I like it when there's a group, you know, I'd love to be in a band or something. So it's just like, I don't want to be, you know, the Margaret Thatcher, like kicking the ladder of success up behind me. I just firmly reject that. So I just want to cheerlead everyone. And it feels better. Honestly, it just feels better. So the zero-sum thinking of the previous presidential administration, I think is just a travesty. I'm so glad. Put it in the trash heap of history. Don't be like that. That's terrible. And it fosters such a toxic, negative, soul-crushing thing. So yeah, if anyone makes you feel like that, please, you know, get away from them as far as you can. Minimize their effect on you as much as you can. And then, so my final piece of my care team stuff with my role, totally new. I'm not a SQL whiz at all. I'm not a whiz with Tableau, but I've been able to like pinpoint my friends who are more technically adept. And I'm like, please walk me through this. And they're so helpful. So, yeah.
Thank you, Erin. And I love that you touched on like women supporting women. And I've been seeing like more people like advocate for each other these past few years. So that's really nice. I realized that we did meet scheduled time, and I hope it's okay if this conversation has just been really good. If we could just do a little few minutes over, so we can hear Taylor's answer. I can ask one last quick question, and maybe if somebody in the room has a question they'd like to ask as well. So Taylor, what are some red flags that you would advise to avoid, or how would you handle that? And
Yeah. I'll try to keep mine like pretty short. Essentially, I look up everything on Glassdoor, like companies, their culture, their benefits, everything, because honestly, people want to tell the truth about their companies and where they've worked before. The company I worked for before, where that guy accused me of writing some crazy email, they have a really bad rating. So I would say it's pretty accurate. And, you know, the company that I work at now, they definitely treat women better. One of, I guess, green flags you could say is like when women are speaking and a guy accidentally cuts off, he'll be like, oh no, I'm so sorry. But like at my other workplace, like that didn't happen. So it's just like kind of seeing how the environment is and how men are treating women, you'll kind of get a feel of like, are people getting raises? Are people getting promotions? Stuff like that. It's just like kind of be aware of your work environment and take note of how men are treating women in that environment.
yeah, thank you. So last question, since we are celebrating Women's Week and Women's History Month, although we're not limited to celebrating just this month, side note, feel free to appreciate the fellow women in your life whenever. What are you thankful for as a woman today? You could maybe do one quick thing. I guess I'll go backwards. Taylor, would you like to answer that one?
Yeah, sure. I don't know. I guess it's kind of like women finding their voice. You know, how there's a lot more women in rap, I would say. That one's like kind of more empowering personally. I also think like women believing that there's no more glass ceiling, like they're breaking and shattering it. So I really appreciate that for my personal career. Just being able to follow in their footsteps is great.
Yeah. Thanks. Rico Nasty goes hard.
You know.
Erin, what are you thankful to be a woman today?
I am really grateful that I'm alive in an age where I have control over my family planning. I can own my own whatever I want. I can have as many credit cards as I want. I don't need a husband or a chaperone. You know, like I've traveled a lot. It's not like that elsewhere. I'm allowed to drive if I want. I can wear whatever I want. I mean, it's San Francisco. I could walk outside naked. I won't, but I could. And that, I mean, like that's power. That's freedom. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm excited to see where we keep pushing. We're so close to the White House. Oh, so close.
Yes, cheers to that. Maria, what are you thankful for?
Yeah, I think both Taylor and Erin put it beautifully. I just love how now we're encouraging to support one another. I think that's one thing that I'm like, yes, can we keep continuing this? Like, we're not supposed, I don't know, but like in the past, like Mean Girls, right? Like at the age of Mean Girls, that was like a cool thing to like bully one another. But like now it's like, no, we can do so much more if we actually like work together and hype each other up. There's room for all of us, right? Like that scarcity mindset. I think something that like I just learned about, you know, it's such like a oppressive kind of mindset. And I think after we do our own healing, I think also just like healing our traumas and like passing that on so we don't traumatize the next generation. I think that is like such a amazing like thing that I just found out too. But yeah, I think empowering each other and just like working together and healing together as well. Hopefully we can do that moving forward for the next generations.
Yes, I'm with you on that. And generational trauma is so real that I'm learning about too. And I'm really glad there's just so many resources today and so much more support and rights for women to be able to heal together and collectively just share the love and share community and be advocating for each other. I do want to give like our audience a moment to ask a question if there are any. Feel free to speak up now or put it in the chat. And after that, I'll just share again my slides real quick and we could be, is there any questions? We did talk on a lot of topics too, so maybe we got it all. I think so. So I'll go ahead and share the slides. Maybe I do want to respect everyone's time, so I will have the recording again if you did want to go back and reflect on what we did discuss. There was some great pointers and advice, and thank you again for sharing your stories to all our speakers. Oops. So tomorrow, after a long week, we want to end with a mental health and meditation mixer. Please feel free to join. It will be at 6 p.m. and we'll be doing the mental health stress management workshop and a guided meditation. So everyone's welcome. Feel free to follow us on our website, and if Nancy could drop the link on connecting with each other, I'd love to get all of you guys to connect on LinkedIn or other, like I think the Instagram, you're allowed to put that in too. So that is all. And please connect with our speakers as well. And thanks again, Michelle, and our speakers. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed our chat tonight. I sure did. Thank you.